Okay, let's take a look at the new point-in-time table functionality that we've introduced in the latest release of BimlFlex. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to a hub that we've defined already in my data vault here, and I'm going to go and look at my sales order hub here. So with the previous version of the point-in-time table, when we click the point-in-time table, you could select the hub and the satellites that you want to associate with the hub. What we've now added is the ability for you to define a business effectivity date or also pick a date. Now, our recommendation at this stage is to just pick one of the dates and create multiple point-in-time tables. Why would you need this? Well, let's just say you need to do analysis and some part of your business, they analyze everything on when your sale was ordered. The next part of your business may want to analyze everything based on when your products were shipped. So you may want to create two different point-in-time tables off the same hub that has different business contexts. So in this case, I'm just going to go and select the due date. So what will now happen is the effectivity in this point-in-time table will be tracked on this business effectivity date, and I will give it a new name here. Let's just call this due, right? So I know what it is. So I can hit save. And what this will now do is we'll create a whole new point-in-time structure that does not run off the row effectivity date. So within BimlFlex, you have the ability to configure a row effective date based on when that row. It's similar to the load date time, but it's not, because it's actually, you can override it, but it is batching all of the data that comes into the data vault and saying all of this data came in through the same batch process and is effective from this time. That date, as you can know, you can override that date to be maybe the change date from the source system. Again, different data vault practices will need different effectivity dates. However, in the point-in-time table, we give you the ability to go and override this date, which is quite useful for when you are connecting to CRM systems or ERP systems that actually allows the business user to say when the row is effective, and that will give you that business effectivity date. So once you've just selected the date, BimlFlex will build all the code for you. So let's go and have a look at what the actual data results will look like. So here I have an example of a point-in-time table that we've created on the due date. And as you can see here, what we have is we have a continuous, so we create a sliding scale or continuous timeline point in time. We do not snapshot every day or every time you say create a point in time table. We do not do the snapshot point in time table. We create a sliding point in time table giving you a continuous timeline. So what you will see here is that based on the due date, this record will be the first one, and it'll create these effectivity dates and creating the continuous timeline. So at any given point in time, if you do a between or a greater than or and smaller than this value here, you will get the appropriate record that is relevant. So this will, as you can see here, creates your continuous timeline here. And what will happen here is it will also then say that this record here, the effectivity between this and this timeline, this is the satellite record based on this key, and that row there is the satellite record. That is the one that you need to pull out to get the data associated with this point in time table. One of the other things that we've introduced in this version of BimlFlex is to create a sort of a beginning of time timeline, which is quite often useful for dimensions. When, let's just say, you start, you do an agile project and you start working on, for argument's sake, say your product dimension first. You bring on all your product timeline, and if you're using the batch date as an effectivity date to say, oh, my data started this time, your product will, let's just say, you started that a month ago. Now you start loading your customer, and the first date in your customer dimension will be right now. So if you're then trying to connect your data, you have this mismatch of timelines. So what you possibly want to do, another setting, is to say my first record in my point in time table actually needs to go back to the beginning of time, so that I have a continuous timeline from let's just say 1900 or 001 all the way to 9921. So again, we give you the option here in BimlFlex to configure that. Let me go and show you what that looks like. So within BimlFlex, you go to the settings, And here all of our data vault settings is switched on here. So again, as you can see here, you've got all of your data vault settings here, and you can just look for the data vault settings. But the one that we are going to look for, okay, I can't find it right now, so let me just filter this on point in time. All right, great. So here it is, point in time default. And what you can do here is you can switch this on to yes, which means is that I want to, when I create my point in time table, I want to default it. You can also go ahead here in your settings, go and look for, if I just go back here to settings, go and search for global. And that is the global default here, which is set to 00101. Now, if you want to set yours at 1900, you can go and change this here. So this is the global default date. Those are the two settings. So now that I've set that, I refresh my metadata and I build my point in time table out again, and I'll run that again and show you the data. All right, so I redeployed the point in time table and executed the stored procedure. And as you can see here, the difference now is that the first record, instead of starting at 2004, will start at the beginning of time. So this will now give you a continuous timeline for your data. So you can also, again, in all of our settings, you can also go and define that at a more granular level. What I mean by that is, let's have a look here, is I can go and let's just say look at my point in time table setting here. Actually, I'll go into the settings. It's probably going to be easier from here. Again, I'm going to go to point here. And on this point in time default here, I can actually go and create an override here and say, oh, you know what, this point in time table for a specific table. So I can go and say, I want it switched on for everything, but I can go ahead and say for just that one point in time table, I want it to be yes or no, right? So you can go and switch it on for all of your point in time tables, or you can switch it off or on for a specific point in time table. So I can go and say no to this one, which means is that maybe for your fact tables, you don't want to go back, that you don't want the first record to go back to the beginning of time. You actually want that to be the actual due date. But for your dimension point in time tables, you may want to go all the way back. So this is just a way where you can go and override that setting. So hopefully you've now seen the enhancements in the point in time tables in BimlFlex, giving you that continuous timeline and also being the ability to add a point in time table over a business effectivity date or any date that you want to associate with a point in time table, giving you, and this is very useful for an insert only architecture where you don't want to have end dates on your satellites. So yeah, thank you for watching.